Welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about Immortal Beloved by Jonathan Clement. Now, a lot of people I haven't heard talk about this story much. It's a very obscure story, but for the few people I have heard who have listened to this, they seem to think it's a pretty weak entry into the series. I'll talk about my opinions more about that, but that does mean that there's very little to talk about in terms of like setting up the discussion of the video. I will say, however, the villain in this story is played by Ian McNeice in his first Doctor Who role. He would later go on in the TV series to play Winston Churchill in the Dalek story Victory of the Daleks, and would be a recurring character in both TV and then in the audio dramas. So that's really cool. I believe there's an audio drama where the 8th Doctor meets Winston Churchill, one of the Ravenous box sets. I could be wrong. I believe it's like The Finest Hour. And there's also one where he meets the 3rd Doctor, and there's also one where he meets the 7th Doctor. I know that for a fact. But yeah, he's in it. He's playing a different character here. But it's nice to see he has a first new role in this. There's also Jake McGann, Paul McGann's son, making not only, I think, is his acting debut, but making his first appearance in this story. So that's really cool. There's also, I've just noticed, no tease for the Head Huntress storyline. So this story is the first completely independent story featuring Lucy in a sense. I mean, we still get little references to the past, but we never get any like build-up. We never get the Head Huntress. We never get like the mystery surrounding who Lucy is and why she's been protected by the Time Lords and stuff like that. So, yeah, interesting little behind the scenes. So here's the official Big Finish CD cover. You can actually see Ian McNeice in there. However, the cover is actually incorrect, as he's described with having a beard. So, there you go. I don't know why they couldn't just add him a beard, or, you know, on the cover, but there you go. Like always, I've printed out my own DVD cover. This is actually one I've actually stolen from DeviantArt, with the exception of the old TV movie logo, so it fits on my shelf better with the rest of the DVD covers. So that's really cool. So if anyone's interested, that's the cover of that, featuring, I believe this woman here, she was also in a Doctor Who story with Peter Davison. I believe it's the Arc of Infinity. I can't remember. I'll have to look that up. And so here is the spine if anyone is interested. Very nice. And of course, you've got the back. So there you go. On to the video. So the story starts off with 2 characters. Can't remember their names, but they're a very young couple, and they're climbing up a mountain. One of them, the girl, seems to have lost her grip, and she's about to fall before the boyfriend catches her and states, "We don't want you to fall yet. I would hate to lose you yet." And when they get up onto the mountain, we basically learn that they're about to kill themselves. Bit of dramatic start. We learn that there's something to do with their parents, and now they cannot live the life they wanted, so they're going to just end it now. And they've also come to the conclusion that the gods that they worship are fake deities, and the scene actually plays out with them actually getting married on top of this mountain before they jump, and the boyfriend proclaims, "If there's any gods that don't like this, then smite us down." And it's that time where they start hearing a noise of wind, and a blue box takes the form. The TARDIS has arrived. Lucy and the Doctor stand out, and they basically get involved in a situation. The Doctor has been trying to get Lucy back to her own time, but now they've bounced off in the other direction. It was originally they bounced off in the past with Horror of Glam Rock. Now they've bounced into the future. So they originally meet these people, and Lucy looks at them. They see as two couples, these two people, a couple, a boy and a girl, on the top of a mountain all by themselves, and she proclaims, right, they're on a little date, they're a bit romanticising. But the Doctor notices something odd with their clothes. I don't really understand how it works sensibly. Something like they're dressed fancy, but they're also really scruffy. And the Doctor is like, they're not here for a snog. They're here as a one-way trip. They're here to end their lives. And we get this this discussion, and basically the debate gets heated to the point where the girlfriend character, she runs off, and Lucy has to basically calm her down. And originally the Doctor starts thinking, right, there's been some sort of ancient, somewhere in between like ancient times and more modern society, something like merging of the two. But something doesn't seem to be right, as after a soldier, one of their friends, comes out to the mountain to try and talk them out of killing themselves, and that this is just a spiteful way against their father. Do they realise that these carriots, sky carriots, come out, and the Doctor looks around, it's like, they're not sky carriots, they're helicopters. And then somebody picks up a gun, to which the other characters proclaims, I believe they're like magic wands, and the Doctor starts to collect, something here isn't right, something here is wrong. So the Doctor, Lucy, and the couple, after the boyfriend's so determined not to be taken alive, shoots the soldier, and the Doctor basically heals the wound after being given like the magic box, the healing box, and the Doctor proclaims they need to take him to the hospital, so they take him to their palace where they belong, where they meet Zeus. This is the character played by Ian McNeice, who is the father of the boyfriend, or at least that's what the Doctor's led to believe. And the Doctor, Lucy, and all the other characters have basically been taken to like a small little room, and there's not enough room. They say something like, before the door can open, the one behind must close, there's not enough room. The Doctor tries to push in, but can't, because there's too little room and the door's closed. And the Doctor basically realises that this is a decontamination centre. This is a little bit to keep germs in and out of the way. So to keep it nice and sterile. And when he meets up with Zeus, then the Doctor basically realises, like, right, he knows what's going on. You'll try and push for answers for him. And I really like the dynamic between Paul McGann and Ian McNeice's Doctor and Zeus. Essentially, to give you the backstory, what the actual story is that these group of settlers, they come to this planet, and they basically found a way of immortality, in a sense. Essentially what they do is, this is a spoiler warning, if you don't want this story spoiled. Essentially what happens is that they're not actually parents. Their children are actually their clones of their younger self. And what happens then is that when one of the older ones, one of the original colony members, is dying or on the verge of death, they transplant their mind into the younger clone, to which then they can live out their the rest of their lives in the clone's body. However, to keep the illusion to keep the clones basically in settle, and they basically proclaimed they are gods, and they gave each other names after Greek philosophy like Zeus, and I'm trying to remember what the woman's name is. Hermes, and like they've all got Greek-inspired names. Now the Greek-inspired name doesn't really go anywhere. It's just a nice little nod to Greek mythology, in a sense. But this whole idea of the clones and taking the brains, though yes, it's kind of a rip-off of the film The Island. Actually, I think this might actually come first. I can't remember. I'll have to look that up, whether The Island came before or after this. In which the famous, the wealthy, the powerful make clones and use them for when the original is dying or has like an injured limb. Essentially the same thing. And the Doctor is disgusted by all this, and Lucy gets involved in a way, as it turns out she befriends the soldier who was the friend of these characters. But it turns out that he is actually a clone of the other soldier who got shot, and so it's so basically he sacrifices himself so that the older one can take over his body and become the young one. And there's also a really disturbing scene that made me go, holy goddamn shit! Is when after both of them wake up, they realise that the other body, the old body, is still alive, and it's completely in pain. So the younger one, the older one now in the young one's body, gets a sword and puts him out of his misery by just stabbing him in the chest. And Lucy is basically like, is absolutely disgusted by this. And what I really like about this story is that from this point on, it's very plot light. There's not real much happening in terms of plot. What happens is the story is mainly a discussion of the philosophy of survival of the clones and stuff. And Ian Manise's Zeus's character, he tries to persuade the Doctor to help him to try to get more parts for this machine, because it's breaking down and soon it will just stop working altogether. And the Doctor states this technology is actually illegal because you can't make perfect clones, and when you transplant your mind into the next body, some information will actually get lost. We actually see this when two of the elder characters are speaking to one another, and the elder woman, she seems to be forgetting some stuff about the original settlers there, especially their real names. It doesn't seem like anybody remembers their real names, which is really disturbing. But the heart of this story is the love dynamic between the two young characters. And yes, in terms of pure character, they're a bit of a stock, but it does help fill the story in that, it's a clear homage to Romeo and Juliet, in which like their parents won't allow him to be. Although it turns out that as Zeus is the original to the young male character, the young female character is actually a clone of Zeus's wife. So, as he explains to Lucy that they've been doing this process for like thousands and thousands of years, and he would rather become an immortal and lose some bits than to see him or his wife die in any form of capacity. He will not be allowed to die. Although he later proclaims that like him and his wife kind of have a polyamically relationship. When they're young, when they take younger bodies, do they proper like at it? I guess is the better. They dance, if that's a nicer way of of putting it. But when they get older, they find interests in other people, and Zeus actually gets an interest in Lucy and plans to with her. So in a way, Zeus is a very interesting villain. He is both really threatening, really smart, and a colossal scumbag and disgusting pervert all at once. And in that remark, and also as well, he's both smart and a colossal idiot as well. In that sense, he reminds me a lot of, which one is it? The leader from the story, The Romans. I want to say it's Claudius. Is it Claudius? Nero, sorry, it's Nero. He reminds me a lot of Nero from the Romans, the first Doctor story, in which he's a bit of an idiot, but he is smart in some capacities. But what makes him really villainous is that his ego and his determination holds no boundaries, and that he will do anything to get what he wants, even if that means harming, or in this case, killing the minds of his clones, so that him and his wife and the original settlers can become immortals. So that is a very interesting dynamic, and I really like this. Earlier on in the video, when I stated that I haven't heard much people talk about it, and those people who have listened to it don't seem to like it that much, I personally really love this story. In fact, I would even go as far to say it's my favourite story in the first season of the 8th Doctor Adventures, the first season with Lucy Miller, or at least that's the first full season I've listened to of the Lucy Miller stories. I really like this dynamic. The story is a little bit slower in the second half, but it allows for all this character and this, all the ideas of this philosophy of becoming an immortal. But becoming an immortal means that you're basically someone who kills younglings on like a daily basis, and like the sacrifices that are made to live forever. And the discussions between Paul McGann, Ian McNeil's Doctor, and Zeus, perfectly written. I can't stress this enough. I really love the dialogue in this story, at least with them two characters. Lucy gets a really great dialogue as well when she's interacting with all the younger clones, and her simultaneously but also separate from the Doctor, learning about all these details. And she's also with her street level talking, and also just being on this wilderness planet, she gets really hyper and she's really energetic, showing how Sheridan Smith is just such a lovable actress, and why she is an award winner. She is so fun in this story. I love Lucy Miller. Some of the dialogue when it comes to the clone characters are a little bit weak, I will admit, especially with the couple. Some of their dialogue can feel a bit one note and a little bit bland, but I feel like Jonathan Clement, he had all these big ideas, but this little love triangle, which is kind of like the soul of it, but you can see that his interests are more on this bigger picture here. So he kind of makes this like the bare minimum so he can focus more on what he's enjoying. And I think that's why a lot of people don't seem to enjoy this story as much as me. Now, I just want to state, if you listen to this story and you don't even like it, if you hate it, that is perfectly fine. This is not me like attacking people's opinions. I'm just stating why I personally love this story, where I feel like why other people, majority of people don't. I think it's that little aspect of the story, a small segment of the story, but in a way it should have been the heart of the story, because it's their relationship and their dynamic that the whole characters and the drama revolves around, because it's basically the Doctor and Lucy are trying to save them so that they're not, their minds aren't taken and their minds aren't warped. But like I said, with I think for me personally, all of these such of other great ideas around it are so good, and despite this little core segment is basically the bare minimum, it's not bad. I want to stress this, it's not bad, it's just bare minimum. And I think with that, I can enjoy the rest of the story around it, and still still have an issue with that, with the fact that this little segment is a bit, not much to it, and not a lot of meat to that bit. But there you go, I kind of rambled. So let me just skip to the ending, essentially. So after the female character starts coughing up, the female leader starts coughing up, and basically they take the younger girl to have her mind swapped, but something goes off. Lucy notices that there's something off when she first seen the process. It took some time. When the older one woke up in the younger's body, he was dizzy, he was traumatized in a sense, and he had to get used to the new body. Here, the younger girl kind of wakes up and is completely fine. And it turns out she's actually tricked everybody, and she actually kills her original self in a sense. And Zeus is shocked and hurt by this, and actually I tell a lie, the older version is actually already dead at this point. She actually stabs Zeus, and Zeus is injured, and he's basically telling the Doctor and his young clone to basically start the process. He needs to live, he needs to survive. If not, he'll ask his guards, his men, to kill Lucy and the girl. Their romance means nothing to him. Lucy means nothing to him. He just wants to survive. And so the Doctor starts the process. It's like, okay, you've won. There's no way of defeating you. And so it appears that Zeus is waking up in the younger body, and Lucy is absolutely mortified by this. How could the Doctor do this? He knows that this is absolutely wrong. In fact, she is so mortified that her and the young girl clone, they actually climb the mountain, basically feel like the Doctor has turned evil, and they plan to actually push the TARDIS off the cliff and hoping to destroy it. But the Doctor and the young clone male actually arrive on the mountain, and the Doctor basically reveals that it was a ploy. Zeus is dead. Nothing could have saved him. He didn't use the process. It was all a trick. And because everybody else doesn't realise that Zeus's mind hasn't been transplanted, they can now live as the couple that they wanted to, and just pretend that they're not Zeus. And when anybody starts questioning him, it's like, he'll just pretend he's Zeus. No big diggy. And the story kind of ends on that kind of note, where it seems like the winners have won for today, but there might still be some evil lurking, and the Doctor, Lucy leave and head off to their next adventure. So that's Immortal Beloved. Overall, I really, really, really love this story. When I first heard it, it blew me away. The concept, the idea, the philosophy, the performances, just everything about it, or at least the majority of it, should I say, absolutely enthralled me. And I was really shocked to learn that this is actually a very unpopular story. Which is kind of sad in a sense, but, you know, it's just my personal opinion. So I highly recommend it. Give it your own listen. You probably won't like it, going by the fact that a majority of people that I've heard from who have listened to the story don't like it. So leave your mind open to the fact that it's not perfect. Don't let me build it up. But please, give it a listen. If you like this story, or like me, you love it, please let me know. I really want to know someone else who loves this story, because I just love this story. And I think it needs to be talked more. It has great ideas, great concept, great characters. Just overall, it's great. And Jonathan Claremont gives a fantastic script in this adventure. So there you go, that's Immortal Beloved. So join me next time, where I literally can't remember a thing about the story. So there's no little tease apart from the title. So join me next time for Phobos. And I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra!